So, my name is Reman Jabar, and I'm from TRIO Higher Education Consortium of Metropolitan St. Louis Educational Opportunity Centers. I am a Client Services Assistant 3. I'm here to talk to you guys today about mental health awareness. I have a special segment for you guys today. We will be talking about mental health and a little background of mental health. I also have a guest with me, Dr. Danielle Frazier. Um, so mental health awareness, while 1 in 5 people will experience a mental illness during their lifetime, everyone faces challenges in their life that could impact their mental health. I'm going to have I want to introduce you guys to Dr. Frazier, and I'll have her give us a little background about her, and then I will be asking her a couple of questions. Hello, Dr. Frazier.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for the invite. I love talking about mental health. It is one of my passions in life. I am a licensed professional counselor. I've been in private practice for a little over 8 years. My office is located in Hazelwood, Missouri. I have been doing most of my services via telehealth due to the pandemic. So that's just a little bit about me. Again, I'm glad to be here and look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start off our first question, and then I have a little bit of information here for our audience to read. So our first question would be, what would be considered a good state of mental health, especially now during the pandemic?
That's a good question. I would say a good state of mental health, it has to do with the person's physical, mental, and social well-being. It means that a person's able to handle stress, they can manage a different range of emotions, the negative emotions, the positive emotions. Good mental health is also the ability to form and maintain good relationships. So in the pandemic, it doesn't really change what a good state of mental health is, but it does make it more difficult to achieve. And granted, most people are not always at this perfect state of mental health, but this is what it looks like. Even in the midst of a pandemic, this is what we want to strive for.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I myself suffer from anxiety and some depression. So some days are completely different than others. Some days I'm fine, some days are challenging.
Absolutely.
Thank you for answering that. Okay, so our next question is, what impact does mental health have on your physical health?
So if you think about the definition that we just discussed, we are people comprised of parts, but all those parts are connected, right? So if my emotions are not quite where I want them to be, or socially I'm not really well, my physical health will be impacted. Researchers have found that mental health can have a direct impact on physical health. So mental health issues can lead to heart disease, respiratory disease, obesity, higher risk for cancer. Some of that is due to stress, right? So if I'm stressed out and I'm not doing anything about it, we know that stress can impact our physical bodies. So some of that is directly linked to stress. Another factor is that when we're not in that good mental health state, sometimes we neglect ourselves, right? We don't go to the doctor. We don't get enough sleep. We don't eat the right foods, and we may already have pre-existing conditions. So the lack of a good mental health state can impact what we already are facing in our bodies. So, it can be a result of just a direct link, and sometimes it's indirect, where we're just neglecting ourselves.
Right. So, okay, that brings us to question 3. You kind of went in and answered some of it. What is a healthy response to a a crisis or stressful situations?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a one size fits all. We're all very different,
Hmm.
and some of us can just deal with things a little better than others, or it's a little more natural. We kind of have self-care things already in place. So it depends, but just a few things that can be used universal. One is to take care of yourself. I know in a state of crisis or high stress, like a pandemic or just everyday life, we often neglect ourselves. So taking care of yourself, and what does that look like? It's eating healthy as possible, right? So it doesn't always mean just eating, salad all day, but making healthier choices, what that means to that individual, trying to exercise, trying to move our bodies, trying to get sleep. And if there's a specific thing that's stressing us out, sometimes taking a break from that thing. So taking care of yourself. The second thing is talking to other people. And when it comes to talking to other people, you obviously want to talk to people that you trust, what we often refer to as a support system. So
Yes.
you're looking for, your friends, your family. Sometimes you may not have those. So it may be, your pastor, your teacher. It can be a variety of people, but you want to talk to other people. One of the worst things we can do is to suffer in silence,
I agree.
and feel like nobody will understand, nobody will care. Somebody will care. Even if they don't understand, they'll care enough to listen and get help for you.
Right. Right.
Just a couple more. Another healthy response is to try to avoid drugs and alcohol. I know some people may have a drink, to kind of wind down, and I'm not, judging anyone who does that. The purpose of this particular bullet in my notes is that you don't want to create another problem when you have a problem,
Agree.
right? So if I'm stressed out, I don't want to start drinking extra and doing drugs to kind of deal with the stress, because then I create another source of stress. And then the last thing, how to cope with crises and stress, is to recognize when you need help beyond even your friends and your family, your support system. Sometimes you may need to go talk to a person like me, or, a psychiatrist, depending on all of what's going on. Just, people know themselves. And if you're at a place where you're just too overwhelmed, that may be a time to reach out for more help beyond your friends and family.
Great advice, Dr. Frazier. Um, so I'm going to ask this question, but you pretty much just said it. What is a healthy response to crisis or stress? We just talked about that, but why is how I see myself, my family, and the people in my life important?
Well, I thought about this question, and I was trying not to make it this big, long, drawn out thing. So I'll say it like this: the way that we see ourselves, it can have a direct impact on the direction of our lives. So what do I mean? So basically, the way we think, it impacts what we do, or for that matter, don't do, right? So our thoughts about ourselves are constantly creating our reality. So whatever I think about, it expands in my life. So for example, if I think, oh, I can't do that, I could never have a job like that, or I'm not smart enough to do that, I could never be that, my actions will then respond. And oftentimes they're going to respond by not applying for that job, or not trying to get in that school, or not, trying to go for whatever it is. If it's talking to someone you want to date, they'll never like me. I mean, you'll never probably talk to that person, right? So
Right.
our thoughts, they expand. What we think about, what we focus on, what we meditate on, what we feed our thoughts. Our self-talk is very important to the direction our life goes. So if you don't think you can be successful, it's likely that you won't be. And it's not because you can't be. It's just because the thoughts are driving your life in a direction that, you may not want to go. So it's important to have a healthy self-talk.
Okay. What are ways can someone take to cope during this pandemic? And when I ask this question, I'm referring to at home, not professional help.
Right. So, one of the main things about this pandemic that has been hard for even the most introverted people, a lot of introverted people, they want to be to themselves and they're not very energized by people. They can take or leave the big social gatherings. But even those people during this pandemic, it's been tough. It's been tough to be away from the socialization that we're accustomed to, even if it's not as much as the next person. So with that, I would suggest that people definitely connect with other people. What that connection look like, it varies, right? Some people may, they may have people over, one or two people, socially distanced gatherings. Other people are doing a lot of connecting via Zoom and Skype and other platforms. And although there's a lot of fatigue, I do get that. It's
Zoom
important
lagged.
to connect. Yes, it is a
I am
thing.
definitely Zoom lagged. I'll tell you
Yes,
that.
it's a
Yes,
thing.
it's a
Yes,
thing.
like
Yes.
on Christmas, like I was on one Zoom with one part of the family, then I was getting text messages, when are you getting on the Zoom? I'm like, look, people, I can only Zoom one Zoom at a time. Let's just calm down.
Yes.
So it is, we even did Kwanzaa via Zoom.
Okay.
On my father's side of the family, it's 7 days, but we condensed it into 3. And so if you could imagine everybody singing, and it was an ordeal. But we did it, right? Because the goal was to stay connected, even though we're all over the country. So staying connected, however that looks like, that is super, super important. Another thing that we can do to cope during the pandemic is to take a break from the news. I know, and I want us to be informed. I want people to know what's going on. I want people to know what they should and shouldn't do. So I'm not suggesting that you just turn it off and kind of go in the corner and act like it doesn't exist. But I am saying that you may need to take a break, because there's a lot of sad news that comes with it. The numbers can be discouraging, the deaths, the devastation. So we want to take a break, right? We want to be informed, but we want to take a break. Another thing is, when you are getting your news, you want to get it from reliable sources. And why does that matter, right? It's because if we get the wrong information from like social media or just the internet, it can cause unnecessary anxiety. Like, I'm super anxious about something that's not even real. I mean, it's not even happening. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like the vaccine is, let's say someone's, oh, the vaccine's making you grow extra limbs. I mean, it's not, right? But
it's like, how can you trust it? Right.
Right. And so you're stressed out about something that is at this point not a fact. Right. So the more non-facts we take in, so I say stick to the CDC, stick to your public health professionals, your state department, and they're not perfect, don't get me wrong, but they're going to be more accurate than just something we see on social media, because again, that's going to help us. We already have enough stress. We don't need extra stress due to misinformation.
Agree 100%. Yes.
Just a couple more things. Take care of your body. Again, I know I keep talking about it, but we need this body to function and last through these type of things. So, same kind of things. You want to, take deep breaths, stretch, meditate, whatever you can do to keep this body going in a healthy direction. So you don't want to neglect yourself. And one other thing is, you want to try to maintain a sense of hope. I know there's a lot of hopelessness, but hopelessness is very dangerous, and it can be very dark, and it can open up doors that people spiral. So you want to try to maintain a sense of hope, find a glimmer somewhere when you can. Sometimes you can't, I get it, but just try, phone a friend, see if they have something good, talk about good news. One of the things that we do at work is people send around like cartoon, like the, from the newspaper, it's all online now, but like the cartoon strip, I mean, we laugh, and it's like Monday's humor, Tuesday's humor. I mean, so you want to find some good things. And the very last thing is to maintain routines. Just try to stick to a daily routine. Why is that important? Because we need to feel like we can control something, right? And we can control what we do every day, when we do it, and that can kind of reduce the anxiety of the unknown.
Okay. Great advice. I need to start doing that. I actually set a goal for myself to start meditating, like just listen to some meditating music on YouTube for like 10 minutes a day, start my day that way. So, positive thinking, positive mind, and just take on the day, and it's hard to do because life happens, things happen, and it's okay. It's okay to happen as long as you're in control and you stay positive and, like you said, hope. So
Right. And if
definitely
that
is.
day is not a good day, you try again the next day.
Yes, you do. Yes. As long as you can pick yourself up and move on to the next day. Okay. So, what is causing the college or high schoolers or both, high school students mental health crisis? For example, one of them is like pressure to succeed in academics.
So I'll start with high school. So, obviously there are a lot of factors that impact the mental health of students, whether it's, elementary, high school, college, wherever. But like, if you think about before the pandemic, some high school students were struggling, like you said, the pressure to succeed academically. Some students, they have family issues, there's a lot of cyberbullying. And one of the other things that we haven't had to deal with as much is like a lot of fear surrounding school shootings and violence. So these things were happening prior to the pandemic, right? So now you have high school students dealing with social isolation, a lot of loneliness. They're missing a lot of their milestone events, such as homecoming and prom and senior trips and graduation. So some of these things, when you couple them all together, these are some of the factors that are definitely impacting high school students and college students. Some of them, they don't feel prepared to go to college, for different reasons. Some may be going because they're pressured by their family. Some may be going because it's just, they feel like it's what they're supposed to do.
Right.
They too are pressured academically. Another part, they have financial concerns. Do I have enough financial aid? Can I afford this? And another thing is about the future. There's a lot of uncertainty about the future. Some of that is immediate, like what will I major in? But beyond that, even if will I be able to get a job? Right? And that's a real concern now in the pandemic. Can I get a job? I mean, the market's weird and things are happening. So there's a lot of uncertainty about where they'll end up. And they too may feel isolated and alone due to some of the changes being made on campuses, to try to keep people safe. But, everybody who's been to college know that is like social, like heaven, right? I mean, you're with your friends and it's just like, and you're an adult too with no parents. I
Yes.
mean, that's the
Yes.
life, right? But,
Yes.
a lot of students aren't having that experience. So it can be really difficult.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot, like you said. I actually just recently went back to school as a part-time student, and
Okay.
I'm not used to going to school online. Anything like everything is virtual. I'm not used to it because I am the person that likes to see to learn. Like you have to physically show me for me to learn it and grasp it or understand it. So like virtual, I'm not learning anything because I just feel like, and I'm learning a lot actually virtually. It's just, focus and just have a different mindset going in. That definitely helped me, but it was very difficult and challenging. And I was, I was at the point where I thought, well, maybe I can just wait, let the pandemic pass, but we don't know when it's going to pass. So it's not a good idea to put your life on hold. And, you just have to make it work. It's hard. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. Yeah. So
I'm
I
glad
can,
you brought that up.
yeah,
The
that I
virtual
can,
thing. It's a thing.
it's a thing. And it's not just academic stress. It's just, we have a lot of people that are, dyslexia, let's say, or ADHD, which I suffer, unfortunately, from. And it's hard. It's really hard. But there is help out there. So I would say to my college fellow students, just hang in there and do your best. It's not easy, but they say, there's a saying, they say, if it's easy, it's not worth it. So I go by that mindset.
Yeah, and reach out for help again.
Yes, definitely
If you're
reach out for help.
struggling, reach out for help.
I'm gonna ask one more, actually two more questions, if you don't mind. I
Okay.
know you're busy, and I appreciate you being here. How does someone know when they need professional assistance or help?
I would say one of the things that that we look for is how is for example, let me backtrack. So being sad, being depressed, being anxious, I mean, those are normal human feelings, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it happens. But what we're looking for to determine, okay, is this where I need help, is how's it impacting your day-to-day life? Is it overshadowing your life, right? Are
Right.
you able to function in life? Some people just had a bad day, but then the next day or 2 days later, they're good. But how is it affecting your ability to function in your everyday life? Are you having obvious mood swings where it's like, I can hardly function? Am I always sad? Am I always hopeless? Like most of the time? Am
Right.
I excessively anxious and worrying like most or all of the time? Another thing is, can I not get past some traumatic event? Like I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, but I cannot get past it. Another one is, am I using alcohol and drugs to numb my emotional pain? Not my occasional drink in the evening or whatever, but I'm really doing this to numb myself.
Right.
So those things, when you start finding yourself in places, in that dark place that you just can't get out of, no matter what you try to do, no matter how much you talk to your friends and family, or all the things you try to do, work out, breathe, stretch, whatever, and none of that's working, I would say, reach out for help. And especially if you're starting to have irrational thoughts about hurting yourself, hurting other people, doing things that are not safe, you definitely want to reach out for help.
Okay. And who should they reach out to?
I see here on your screen you have pretty much everything I had listed on mine.
Yeah.
Hey. There's one more that I will mention. Well, there's two. One is called the National Alliance of Mental Health. It's
Okay.
NAMI for short, NAMI. And
Okay.
it's a good resource for information. So that's NAMI, National, and it's NAMI.org.
Okay.
National Alliance on Mental Health. And then the last one is Behavioral Health Response, and that's BHR. That's how it's known in the community. And they are 24 hours a day. If you're in a crisis, call them like right now. That's what they do.
Okay.
They will come to where you are to do like assessments and see what next steps are. They're very, very, very good in the community. And they have an 800 number,
Mhm.
800-811-4760.
Okay.
So, look into them. They're extremely helpful. I've done some referrals to them, and they're great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this brings us to our last question. In your opinion, Dr. Frazier, what are the barriers to mental health care, such as social, culturally, and economically?
One of the things that is an obvious barrier is, for some people, it's a lack of health insurance. Most of the time when you go see a therapist, a psychiatrist, psychologist, nurse practitioner, whoever you're going to see, they want to ask you, what type of insurance do you have, right?
Right.
So if you lack insurance, that's a barrier. The other part of that is some people lack the knowledge of the available services. For example, my office is located inside of Walters Walk. And Walters Walk, we offer services to people who don't have insurance. We have sliding scale services. It's the same professionals giving you the service. Nothing is diminished or minimized or anything like that. It's just we offer services to people who don't have insurance. So sometimes people don't know that they have their services for them, so they don't seek them out. Another one, when you start talking about culture, is stigma. We know that in some cultures, I can speak as an African American, historically, you don't have a lot of trust in the, healthcare system, and definitely not for mental health, because, we're not crazy, right? So you kind of have that stigma, and it's a
Yes.
huge barrier. I will say that I am encouraged by the clients that I have that are young. Some of them are younger and younger, and I am encouraged by that they want to come and their parents are allowing them to come. So, hopefully over time we can, kind of put a dent in some of that stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you start talking about money, again, limited finances, which can impact how you get services, particularly if there is no sliding scale and you just have to pay big amounts of
Right.
co-pays and things like that. And the last part of that is sometimes lacks of transportation.
That's true.
People
That's
can't
true.
get there. I mean, the bus, we can say get on the bus, but that's not always feasible, right?
Right.
So that's definitely a barrier for people to come consistently. Like maybe they could do the bus in the spring, but it's like 10 degrees outside,
Yes.
so
Yes.
that can be that can be a barrier.
I'm glad you brought up actually culturally. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually a big barrier, and I am one of those examples again.
Mm-hmm.
With culturally, it's not accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Culturally, in my culture, they're ashamed
Mm-hmm.
to admit that they
Mm-hmm.
need mental health help. And
Mm-hmm.
like you stated, you're not crazy. Why are you saying that? And
Mm-hmm.
it has nothing to do with crazy. Mental health has
Absolutely.
nothing to do with you being crazy. That's not the
Absolutely.
definition of it at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it can be emotional. It could be, I mean, it is emotional. It could be, anxiety, depression. It could be other disorders that
Mm-hmm.
hopefully we'll get into later on in different segments. But it's nothing wrong with it. Don't be ashamed to seek help, to talk to
Mm-hmm.
someone about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important because, again, it will affect your physical health eventually. So,
And with
it's
that, I just want to say real quickly, one of the things I tell clients all the time is if you have, heart issues or blood pressure, cholesterol, you go to the doctor. There's no shame, right?
diabetes. Yes, yes,
Diabetes,
yes.
we just go to the doctor like, oh yeah, I have diabetes, but I mean, there's no shame in that, right? You go, you get the medication, you do what you're supposed to do, and you go on with life. The mental health, it should be treated no different. It should be treated,
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah.
And it's confidential. When you go to a doctor, it's
Mhm.
completely confidential. Nobody has
Mhm.
to know. Obviously, your family, because you definitely want that support.
Mhm.
And maybe your family sometimes dismiss it because they're not aware or understand it. And that's
Mhm.
why we're doing these segments, is for you to be aware, and your family
Mhm.
and your loved ones, your
Mhm.
friends even, to understand what is mental health, and
Mhm.
how you can ask for help, where can you go, and how to cope on every day. And it's not just during the pandemic, it's
Mhm.
everyday life, before the pandemic,
Mhm.
after the pandemic, hopefully.
Mhm.
And it's just much needed right now that I've noticed a lot of people are talking about it. So
Mhm.
if you guys have any questions, Dr. Frazier, what do you mind if they reach out to you and see if they're um, qualified for your services?
Oh no,
Or
I don't mind at all.
okay,
No.
and I know you gave the number earlier, so can we repeat that number again, please?
So my number, I think the number I gave earlier was for, I think it was BHR. Um,
Okay.
my number directly is 314-246-0165. Again, that's 314-246-0165.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frazier, for being here today and giving us a lot of great advice and feedback. Again, my
Thank
name
you.
is Reman. Thank you. Reman Jabar, and I'm from TRIO, Educational Opportunity Centers, and I can be reached at 314-648-5343, and as well as my email address, rjabar@hecstl.org. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.